Hi fellow developers, welcome back to SFDC Panther, and today we are going to learn how we can use events in web components and what is the difference between the events in web components and events in the or framework that we learned earlier. And then after we will see how we can create an event in child component and then how we can handle that event in parent component. And then after we will modify our search wizard that we created in our previous tutorial so that whenever if we are selecting any record we will display only that record and will remove all the list there. So let's get started with the events here. So here in web components custom events we have some standard events. Standard events, if I say that on click, on change, on double click, on mouse over, on blur, on focus out, and then we have some custom events. Custom events will be used while we are working with parent child component, or if you are working with some different components that are not interrelated with each other. So for creating custom events here in web components, we don't need to create some other components, or we don't need to create some other files that we were used to do in our framework. We just need to use custom event. There is one class here in JavaScript that we can that is called as custom event, that takes four parameters: one, name of the event, and then bubbles, cons level, and then whatever the information that we wanted to pass. So let's see what is the structure of a very simple event. So if you can see, this is a structure of creating an event in web component. You can see custom event is a class, so we are just initializing the object of custom event, and then we are giving here name. We can give the name of the event. Then we can give either is bubbles, that means it will be either true or false, and then we can also give cons label. It also, the value for this will also may be true or false, and then we have a detail value that we can send the information if you wanted to pass, and then we can send detail. Detail will always be in the form of object. So here these are the four parameters that custom event constructor required. But you can also use, if you wanted to give only name, you can only give the name. If you wanted to give name and detail, you can also give name and detail. Or if you wanted to give all four parameters, then you can also use all four parameters. You are free to use the events which is appropriate for your requirement. So for bubbles, if we are giving true, that means if the components are inherited by one or more component. Let's say that we have one component A which is which contains another component B, and then B is containing another component C. So if we are firing any events from C, if you give it as false, that which is by default value for bubbles, if you give it as a false, then only B component can handle, because B is the immediate parent of C. But if you give it as true, then both components can handle the event. So if your requirement is to handle the event in a grandparent, you can also handle with the help of bubbles. But the by default value for this is false. So let's go ahead and see how we can use this. So when we will be using event, that means there will be two components. One will be a child component, and one another will be the parent component. And then this dispatch event is a method which is responsible for firing the event. You can see we were using fire for firing the event in our ARM method, but here we just need to use dispatch event. And this is saying that with the help of that, where we are executing or we are dispatching the event. This can also be idea of any HTML5 division tag, paragraph tag, or any anchor tag, or any whatever you wanted to. This can be anything you wanted to. So here let's go ahead and see. So this is, let me create one component that I will say that I can say it paginator. Oops, I just need to select create lightning web components. I will name it as the parent component will be named as paginator, where I will be using two buttons. One will be for previous and then other will be for next. And so that whenever I'm clicking on previous or next, it will execute the event from the child component. So let name is that we can say that simple event. Simple event will be the parent component where we will be using that paginator component with the help of previous and helped event. So here now let's go ahead and create another one as well. In the meanwhile, let me tell you one thing, that while using the event, while we are dispatching the event, we need to use the name of as per our choice whatever we wanted to, but while we are using we need to prepend on. Let's say that if you are creating an event, the name is select, we need to use on select. If the name is next, we need to use on next. Or let me say that if I have created selected record, so I need to select on select as a record. So let's name it as paginator, and then after creating this inside paginator, we will create two method. We will dispatch two events that we will see. Okay, so as we have created, let's go ahead here in the HTML. So what we are going to use is I'm going to use lightning layout here, and inside lightning layout I'm going to use two layout items. One for that I can say that one will be for previous button and then other will be for next button. So here let me create one button that I can say that lightning button. I will label it as previous, and then a variant I can give it as brand, and I can also give icon name that I will use utility colon j of on left, and then on the on click of the button I will create a handle next method in JavaScript. We'll create after we are done here with the HTML markup. And let's create one more layout and then one more button that we will see that will be for right. So here it will be next, and it will be right instead of left, and then it will be handle previous. So now let's go ahead and create handle next and handle previous. So here in handle next, what we are going to do is we are just going to create a new event that we will say that, let's say that we are going to create a constant variable, and that in that constant we will store the object of new custom event. You can say that new custom event, and then we will name it as, you can say that next, and then we will use we will dispatch the event that we can say dispatch event, because firing the event is, dispatch event is used for firing the event. Now let's go ahead and create one more method that will be using for dispatching the event that we can say that previous event. So here it will be previous event. It's next. Okay, cool. We are done with the paginator component. So it's just a simple component which is containing two buttons, one for previous and one for next. And then the JavaScript class associated with this component contains two methods, one for next, which is responsible for creating a new custom event, and that we name it as next. And then we can also, let me put the comment, create the custom event and then execute the event. We can say that fire event. So now the time is to do some coding with a parent component that we saw that simple event. So let's go to the HTML component. Here what we can do is we just need to call c.paginator, and here now time is as you can see that here paginator we have two event, one is next and one is previous. So what we need to do is we need to use on and then it will be next. So as we created on next, we will say that handle next, and then we can see on previous. So here let me copy this previous, on previous, and we will see that handle previous. So what we are doing is we are using the name of event and prepending it with on. So when to use the events here, if you see, if you remind the aura, in aura what we are doing, we need to use handle or a handler, and then we were giving the name of the event, and then we were giving what is the type of event, and then we were telling the action to the controller, that which controller action needs to be executed. Now here what we need to do is we just need to use, while we are calling the method, while we are calling the child component, that means if you are calling the child component which is paginator, then and there we can give which event we need to call from the child component. And let's say that if there are more events that are being dispatched by this component, but we only want to handle two events that are on next and on previous, we just need to use those, we just need to pass those events over here. Now let's go ahead in the controller of this component, the class of this component, create two parameter, and here sorry, two methods, and here we can just either we can do some alert, or we can just leave it as simple. So what we will do, we will just create some variable, and then we will increment and decrement the variables. And let's create a variable that we will see, we can say that track, and we will name it as page, and the value will be 1, by default value will be 1. And here in handle next, what we need to do is we just need to page equal to page plus 1, that's it. Okay, sorry, as we know that to refer the variable here we need to use this. And then here in the previous, what we will do, we will check if this dot page is greater than 1, then only do the minus this dot page equal to this dot page minus 1, otherwise don't do. So this is the simple thing that we are doing here. And let's say that and also use template, if true we can say that page, then display, and we can say current page number is, and we just need to refresh page here. And now let's do some configuration work here with the XML file, and we will say that master label, simple event, and then I will use it for only for app page. So I'll just add for the app page here. Target. Now let's push the code and we will see if this is working, and we'll see how cool the events are here, how to work with the events in a very easy way. So as this is here in this web components, we are using top industry standards. This is why we are using custom event here. We are getting the errors. It's a master label, it's not, so we need to make the change here. So as we are using standards, this is why we are using custom events, the JavaScript predefined class. And I'll also share you some links in the description of the video where you can find and go ahead and learn more about custom events. Why we're getting the errors? Okay, we used here in this, you can use the same here, and we will name it as cust simple and event. Let's try to post it again. Okay, and now we are successfully able to post this. And let's go ahead to our application, add that component, and then we will see if you are able to see some magic here. If you are able to handle the component, even we can say that the event in our parent component, and then after we will see how we can pass the data and what is the structure for passing the data and how we can get the data here in the parent component. So the name that we gave is simple event. Simple event here we can see, and we just need to wait for to load the layout here. Add this event here. Okay, we can see current, previous and next here. Now let's go back. Okay, we can see that current page is 1. Okay, okay, I think there is some coding change that we need to make because the buttons are working very different way that we need to we can say that they are working with the reverse functionality. So here go to the simple event, handle next. Okay, go to here on next, we are calling handle next. On previous, we are calling handle previous. Okay, I think here we need to paginated HTML, we need to make the change. It should be next and then it should be previous. And as we are here, let's make a change here and then make and put it here above the, and we can also disable. Okay, we will do this thing later on. Let's put the change now and then see if the buttons are working as per their expectation, as per the requirement that we did here. Okay, let's see. Now refresh this, and after refreshing, we should be able to see the correct things. Okay, the icons are changed, but the things are working whatever we wanted to do it here. And so this is how you can work with a simple event that we are not passing anything, any parameters. Now let's see how we can pass the values from child component to the parent component. So let's first discuss the structure of that. So here you can see we are just storing the event in a constant that we can say that select event. Here in the custom event you can give the name, and then you can also give the details here in the form of object. You can give the details, you can also use bubbles, and you can also use cancelable, and then we are just firing the event with the help of dispatch event method. So this is how we pass detail and whatever the value we wanted to pass. This must be the same. We cannot make any changes here, but the value can be anything. The value can be dynamic. But in case of detail, it's always better to pass the record ID or any simple thing. It's not recommended to pass the objects here. Let's say that if you wanted to pass the complete account objects, you can pass, but it's not recommended to pass that. It's always recommended to pass simple values that like record ID and whatever. Say if there is a number, a string, a decimal, currency, whatever you wanted to pass here. So let's go here in the visual code and see how it is working with the data. So to show this example working with the data, what we are going to do is, as you can see that here we are able to see the list of accounts here. Let me type it as A. As you can see the list of accounts. So what we will do, we will, as these are coming from the child component. So what we will do, we will implement the on-click functionality. And if you click on, if you say that whatever the on-click is there, we will display the details of all those components like name and phone. And here we will only show the account name, that's it. And we will also remove all these things. So let's go ahead and first we work with the we can say that account tile, which is the child component. So here let's open that account tile. In the HTML, what we are going to do is we're just going to use a anchor tag href, and we can see as we are not going to return in the href, so we are going to use file 0 here. And then on click, and we can say here handle select because we are selecting the record. And inside that, here we are going to use a paragraph, or we can say that we are just using account dot name, that's it. And we are going to comment out this. Open the controller of this account tile, and then create one. Here we can use event, and then use event.prevent default, so that we can prevent the default behavior of anchor tag. And then create you can say that constant variable select event, and we will be using custom event constructor. And you can say name, it will be select, and while we will be using it will be on select. And then we can pass detail, and then what will be this dot account dot id. And here we are going to dispatch this dot dispatch event. Okay, so why here we are using this dot account dot id? Because we have created a public variable that is named as account, and we are passing this account from the parent object, which is contact list demo. And here we are passing, okay, this is the one I commented out, this one, so that we can only display the accounts here. Here we are passing accounts, each one accounts at a time. So if we have 10 accounts, the object of the instance of account tile web component will be created 10 times. So this is why we are using this start account id. So whatever account we will be click, we will get the account id over here in the detail. So as we are using this select here, let's go to the parent component, that is account list demo, and then also use on select here. We need to, here we can say that on select, and then we will call handle select record here. So let's go to the controller of this component now, and we will be adding a new method which will be saying that on select record. Here we need to pass the parameter as event because we wanted to get the value from that event, whatever the event we are getting. So here let's say that constant, and we can say record id, and we will use as event or detail. And then we will console. So for consoling, let's first put the comment line that we need to use, and then use console.log. We will use record id as whatever the record id is here. So as of now, we'll just do this, and let's make sure that this is working, so that then after what we will do after that, we will find whatever the account is this, and then we will create one more parameter. Let's go ahead and create one more parameter that we can say that track selected account, and then we will be using this selected account here in our JavaScript. So what we will be doing, we'll be creating one layout here. We can say that lightning layout, and then here in lightning layout we'll be creating one layout item, and here we will be using template if true. That means if there is any value for selected account, we'll be displaying the value for selected account dot name, and then we will be using selected account dot phone. So we are not going to push these changes. We are just going to uh, make sure that the changes that we made on account tile and this controllers of a contact list demo, and that are working fine. So let's go ahead here in our uh, application org, and we will see that what is, if it is working or not. So here first we need to put some, okay, here we are getting, but and that is okay. The layout is a bit not looking nice. We will be making changes. Let's go ahead and select a account. If you are okay, you can see that we are able to find whatever the record we are selecting, we are getting the id. That means whatever the value we are passing from account tile at the time of dispatching the event, we are getting those value here in a parent component. That means the values are working fine here. So let's go here in the HTML file. We need to make a small change here. I can just go ahead and create a lightning layout. Inside lightning layout, I'll be using lightning layout item, Okay, that is cool now. So now what we need to do is we need to find which account record ID is this, and then we need to assign and that account record with a variable that we created that is called as selected account. So uh, to do this, we have two methods. We have two way that we can do. Either we can iterate with the for each, as we have the variables here already, and that we can see that accounts. Either we can iterate through the accounts, or what we can do, we can use inbuilt method that is called as find. What it does, it takes. Let me show you how it does. We can say that this dot selected account. Let's say accounts or the records, the list of records that we have. We need to use find. What it does, it takes one parameter. Let's say that account. This is the parameter which is iterating, and that means I will also explain you and I'll compare with it. And then we can check if this account dot id, whatever the account it is, and then equal to this record id. So what it will do, okay, I'm sorry, we need to use this here as well. So what here we are doing is we are iterating through the list of account records. Let's say that we have 10 records. So what it will do, it will take first record and will check if this account id is equal to this record id, it will assign this account to the selected account. If not, it will check for the next record. If the id matches with, then assigns. Otherwise, it will keep checking unless it is not getting the expected result. If this condition is not true, it will continue checking the condition for the complete list for whatever the list we have. And this is the same thing that we have for the for list. Let's say that if we are using for and then we're using let I equal to 0 and then I is less than this dot accounts dot length, and then I plus plus, and if you make check here if accounts I dot id equal to record id, and then you assign this dot selected account equal to accounts I, this dot accounts, this dot. So this for is it's the same as find account. So I will show you the both ways first. Let me show you the find way, and then I will show you the for way as well. So let's go ahead and push the code, and now we will select the record, and we should be able to see whatever the information we are using here, name and phone. So let's wait until we are pushing the code to the scratch arc here. Yeah, it's done. Now let's go ahead, refresh the page, and we should be able to see the intended output. So this is also for a, you can say that this is also for a base for the creating lookup records. It's here a find accounts. Now you can see that we are okay. We are selecting. Okay, you can see here whatever we have selected, we are able to see the account record here on the top of on that component. So we are successfully able to see, and now let's go ahead and I will okay, here we are using here lightning layout inside the lightning card. So we need to use here, first thing that we need to do is this, and then I will also make the changes here, and I will comment this and uncomment this far part, and then I will push the code to the organ. After pushing that, I will show you the same thing. This will the same thing will happen because Here what we are going, we are using for each, and then here we are using the inbuilt method of our JavaScript. The same thing is happening here. You can see we are checking for each and every account. What we are doing here inside if condition, we are doing the if condition here as well. So let's go ahead, refresh the page. You can type A here and then find accounts, and you can also see. You can see we are successfully able to see the records. So both the things are similar. So I'm pretty much impressed with the find method. So I'm using find method here. I'm not going to use for here. So this was all about for today's session that we did, and I'll definitely share the links and the code you will find on my GitHub repository. So thank you guys, and thank you for taking your time out to watch the video, and see you on next video. Thank you.